Once again, we do have our timing in the back. It's color coordinated, so it goes from green to yellow, and then you can start wrapping up that red.
Okay. Give me a cue if I go over. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for coming. I'm Philip Levine. I'm the mayor of Miami Beach, and I'm very honored to be here, running for re-election. I'd first like to say, Benjamin, you look great, and I hear you're doing a great job with the previous debate. And this young man from Beach High came and spoke in front of our commission, and he was absolutely spectacular. And I said to him, you got to come, you're going to go into politics, and I have a funny feeling that the future debates for the mayor of Miami Beach, we're going to see Benjamin up here on this podium. Great job. Benjamin is studying at a very fine high school, Beach High, and as becoming mayor, I got a chance and very involved with that great high school and Go High Tides. We have a great football team. I know the Coral Park victory was a great victory about a week ago. And you got some great coaches. One of the things we did in Miami Beach when I became mayor is we formed an organization called One Miami Beach. And we formed that because it's a charitable organization to give back to a lot of the students and a lot of the teams that are in Miami Beach that are missing certain things. And One Miami Beach was providing various equipment for their football team, the basketball team, the wrestling team. We allowed the cheerleaders to go on a trip that they needed to go on, and of course various things. And of course the High Tides even went and played over at Marlins Stadium. When I became mayor, I knocked on 6,000 doors. I listened to the people of Miami Beach. And the story that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to do it real quick because I probably have a minute, is a story of the city coming together. People that realized that there were things that needed to happen, and I was honored to be elected. A convention center that was in disarray, that we're going to transfer very valuable acres to a third-party developer. Now we're going to start construction on our own renovation. We're going to have a 6-acre park to go with it. A police department that was, some people said, a little bit corrupt. There were headlines all over about shootings, Memorial Day weekend, and of course, unfortunate, horrible taser death. We went out to the national search. We have an amazing new police chief. We have a second in command, Loretta Hill, who's the highest ranking African American in the history of the Miami Beach Police Department. And now the headlines coming out of the Miami Beach Police Department are positive. They're good. There's no negative headlines coming out for things that have happened during this administration. The area of North Beach was an area of our city that was, some people, am I at 2 minutes?
Yeah, you have 2 minutes up.
Great. All I want to say to everyone is the city that came together. It's not about the mayor, it's about the community that came together to get things done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Wieder. I went to first grade in Miami Beach. I lived in Miami Beach for most of my life. My father came to Miami Beach in 1923. He was a busboy and waiter at the Nemo Hotel, many of you know, down on First Street. I went to Nautilus and I went to Beach High. And my 2 children went to Beach High. And they played #1 on the tennis team for Beach High when they were there. So I know Beach High very well. I also went to Nautilus and North Beach Elementary. My parents put me in 2nd grade, but I think I should have stayed another year in 1st grade. But I do want to thank everyone for being here today. Benjamin, I'd like to thank you as well. I think it's very important for the community to understand the issues that are facing our community. Miami Beach is not for sale by developers. It is not for sale by the mayor and his cronies. It is not for sale to special interests. It is not to overdevelop the city so that we cannot drive our cars on the street. It is not for raising the sidewalks around the mayor's buildings and around his garage. And I believe we do have to address sea level rise. But we have to first see where the raising of the sidewalks and the sea level comes from that. We have to understand what this issue is before we decide to uniformly raise the sea level throughout the entire city. So let's just get it done and unseat this mayor. Now, let me tell you about myself. I don't see a light back there, by the way. Where is it?
Yeah, and it's right in the back. Once again, I'd like to remind everyone to please send in questions to www.teamsforteens.info/NB-candidate-questions. Make sure that all of you have a voice in this meeting.
So I didn't just run a business, because a city is not a business. A city is here to serve our people. We, the people. The people are the most important aspect of any city. And if I'm your mayor, you'll have an open door. You won't have unreturned phone calls. You won't have to go through a bunch of aides in order to get to me. So I've spent my career in service to people, both as a lawyer and as the chairman of the Historic Preservation Board for the past 6 years. And I understand the development issues of this city probably better than anyone here. So I ask you to vote for me, but I'm going to hold the rest of my remarks in response to what else goes on during this debate. Because I only have time. I don't have enough time.
Historic preservation of Miami Beach neighborhoods is a huge issue for Miami Beach residents. Mr. Wieder, if you were elected mayor, how would you make sure that we can maintain the integrity of Miami Beach housing?
I am totally opposed to any upzoning in the city. I'm totally opposed to the city commission allowing there to be destruction of our historic homes, such as what happened at 42 Star Island. I would favor a Carl Gables type ordinance where the Historic Preservation Board would examine all demolitions. And then if older homes simply don't deserve to be preserved simply because of their age, then there would be an additional step. And people like couldn't go ahead and just get a blanket demolition permit, knock the house down, and we lose homes like the Walter DeGarmo house, which was a 1923 house, 25 house, 8,000 square foot, and was knocked down on Star Island simply to serve the vanity of the owners. So I think the structure of our city requires that we have respect for our history. If you go around the world, anywhere in the world, Paris, London, Rome, New York, there are landmark commissions which protect the history of a city. We don't want to look like Sunny Isles Beach.
Once again, for the mayoral debate, we will not have time limits on any answers to these. Mr. Levine, do you agree with Mr. Wieder that we need to continue prioritizing historic preservation and inclusive development?
Well, let me just talk about what we have done. I think it's very important. First of all, what we recently just passed, and I think everyone would agree that what we don't want in Miami Beach is McMansions. So we actually recently just passed the most stringent, toughest single-family home ordinance in the history of Miami Beach. What we did is we reduced the amount of size that you can build in a single-family lot, the actual coverage, from 35% to 30%. The unit size of the house we reduced from 70% to 50%. We also passed an ordinance that said you can't aggregate more than 2 lots to build something. And if you aggregate a third, which you're not allowed to have a structure on it. We in Miami Beach, we have the largest historic district probably in the United States, called the Art Deco District. I believe that Miami Beach is at the forefront of historic preservation. It's very, very important. For protecting some of these old homes, we put together a great incentive package. One that allows you to build more if you don't tear down the home, as well as the lot coverage, as well as the unit size of the home, and other technical reasons and examples and incentives to allow you to maintain and keep these historic homes. The historic homes are very, very important. I think we all agree. But, it's interesting. Everyone talks about overdevelopment, and I've been racking my brain and talking to people in our city, and I'm thinking, since I became mayor, what specifically have we done for overdevelopment? And it's very challenging to find anything that we have done, but I can tell you something, what the Historic Preservation Board has done. On Lincoln Road, for example, we have the oldest church in Miami Beach. The Historic Preservation Board, led by my opponent, voted to build additional retail in the historic courtyard of that church. That, to me, was a mistake. It's something that shouldn't have happened. That is something that we needed to do. What's interesting about this is that the issues of building do not come to the City Commission. They're coming to the Historic Preservation Board, the DRB, and the Planning Board. They're not coming to us. They're coming to my opponent. And unfortunately, a lot of these things that have been built came through that, whether it was the glass condominium, of course, for example, the Gap store on Lincoln Road. The developers tore it down, didn't ask for permission, then went to the Historic Preservation Board and got permission afterwards, which my opponent voted for. I think that if we have a Historic Preservation Board that actually does their job and doesn't allow these types of developments to happen, I think we're all going to be a lot better off. Thank you.
We're only talking about a 5% reduction in the house size. And I think everybody will agree that 5% is not enough. He's talking about 30% down to 25%. So we are not allowing enough room or setbacks on the lots. And I don't think there should be zoning variances to allow further construction. But if you look at Ocean Terrace, for example, where the commission put on the ballot a 250-foot tower in a historic district, and reversed the decision of the Historic Preservation Board in order to allow this developer to come in and put up luxury condos and put another tower in a historic district on an emergency basis. It was brought up the next day at the City Commission after we voted to prevent that. And if you look at the historic Biltmore Terrace Hotel on 88th Street, which is the furthest street north in Miami Beach, that hotel did Mr. Levine did a 180-degree turn on the Biltmore Terrace and tore down, allowed a beautiful Morris Lapidus structure to be demolished. The builder came in and promised that it would be a hotel, and now it's going to be another luxury high-rise condo. We don't want to push the middle class out of Miami Beach. That's the last thing we want to do. We want to have a city that retains its character and its diversity. And luxury condos, and just get it done at the expense of the ordinary citizen and the middle class, is what we don't want.
Benjamin, can I respond to that? For example, Mr. Wieder, you voted to demolish the Versailles Hotel for the Faena. You voted the Historic Preservation Board to put self-storage on Alton Road. You voted yes to have a 16-story bath club condominium on Collins Avenue. You voted to knock down the Charles Hotel to build another CVS at 14th and Collins. The list goes on and on and on. Mr. Wieder, if you did your job as the chair of the Historic Preservation Board, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. Thank you.
Projects come before the Historic Preservation Board, and in the 6 years I've served as a volunteer, there's never been an issue of impropriety or ethics as to what I did. But Mr. Levine and his pack have gone through the Miami Herald, collected $1.4 million in donations, has not given back half the money that this pack, Relentless for Progress, had, which he and Mr. Wolfson were associated with. And when Michael Putney, a respected journalist, came out and said that Mr. Levine and Mr. Wolfson were sleazy, Mr. Wolfson, Mr. Levine's co-commissioner or co-conspirator, as it were, said that we are going to give the money back. But they've only given back half the money. And the only rising of streets are around his garage and around his property in Sunset Harbor. So, you know, you can go through the votes of the Historic Preservation Board, and by the way, I've only been chairman for the last year, but everything we've done has been for the good of this city. We were all volunteers, and projects came to us through demolition by neglect. Projects came to us which showed that we are not we are not opposed to development, sensible development. Sensible development that isn't going to increase the population density by, like Ocean Terrace, where they want to increase the FAR, which is the floor area ratio, from 2 to 3. That means more traffic, more cars on Collins Avenue. Who was out in the rain lately? Who saw the floods and the flooding in the streets? With all the pumps that Mr. Levine has claimed he took responsibility for, by the way, which were initiated by a previous administration, we still have amazing flooding on those areas. As far as sea level rise is concerned, that is a problem. But I'm not sure it's being addressed properly and has been addressed properly because Mr. Levine is so concerned with raising the streets on West Avenue and also in Hispaniola Way where he's, his friend Scott Robbins owns half the block.
Mr. Levine.
Thank you. Let me address that, Benjamin. Well, first of all, Mr. Wieder, you brought up a really good point. You said you're a volunteer. I'm actually a volunteer too. I volunteered to be mayor of Miami Beach. I don't take a salary. I self-funded my first campaign. I'm self-funding my second campaign. I don't take any travel expenses. There's literally no checks from the city of Miami Beach. And I'm wrong. I'm sorry. We had to do a 99-cent check to myself last year, which I actually have on the wall. Because I do it because I'm a volunteer, because I love the city of Miami Beach. But you brought up a couple of things I'd like to address. First of all, you brought up the issue of Commissioner Wolfson's PAC. Mr. Wieder, if I remember correctly, I know you like to disparage Mr. Wolfson, and I'm not here to defend him, and I'm not here to defend the PAC. But I do know the reason you got on the Historic Preservation Board is because Commissioner Wolfson sponsored you to get on. And I know that you have a great relationship with him, and that's the reason why you are on the Historic Preservation Board. But let me address the issue of PAC. PACs are bad in our country. I do not agree with the United States Supreme Court decision, Citizens United. All these governors, senators, congressmen, the county mayor, the commissioners, they all have PACs. But because they all have them, it doesn't mean they're right. Now, when Commissioner Wolfson decided to open a PAC, the first thing he did, and the first thing I asked, because he asked me if I would contribute, and asked me if I would even help get contributions, I went to our city attorney. And our city attorney made it very clear that it's 100% legal. From that point forward, Commissioner Wolfson created a PAC. I listened to the people of Miami Beach. I heard what they were saying. You know, the PAC, I think I understand, was originally for statewide issues, to stop casino gambling in the state of Florida, to get more sand for our beaches, to put pressure on our legislatures, to get transportation dollars. But then when the word came out, Commissioner Wolfson was talking about maybe this would be something for local politics. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. And I listened to what people were telling me. They were saying, it may be legal, but it's not right in Miami Beach. And that's what I started to feel. I listened, and that's what I always do, is I listen to the people. And I'm very happy that Commissioner Wolfson shut down that PAC. I'm very happy he's returning the money that was not spent to the people that contributed. I think it's a positive thing, but I don't think that's enough. On Miami Beach, we've become a model for so many things we've done. And I'll get into the sea level rise that you brought up. The White House sends people down here to see what we're doing because we're leading the nation in the fight against sea level rise. I believe we also need to lead the nation in the fight against too much campaigning, too much financing, too many of these PACs. So we are proposing legislation that's going to get passed in the next 30 to 45 days that's going to stop any elected official in Miami Beach and any candidate for office in Miami Beach from directly or indirectly raising money for any PAC whatsoever. And that will be passed in the next 45 days. And that's okay. Speak that, John.
We'll be moving on.
Thank you.
So first, we have a lot of ambiguities in our city code. And it seems that a lot of ordinances can't effectively be properly ordinated. Mr. Wieder, if you were elected mayor, how would you make sure that our city code can be reformed to increase the enforcement in the city?
Well, what I would do is examine the city. What I would do is examine the city code for the inconsistencies you're talking about, but I'm not sure what specificity you mean your question. I'm not quite sure. sure that I understand. The city code is a huge document. It deals with many issues, including the sunshine law, what politicians can and can't do. And so if you want me to tell you how I'm going to do a blanket reformation of the city code, that would take a lot of study. And frankly, I haven't had the opportunity to study the entire city code. And you know, if I knew the answer to your question, I'd certainly give it to you.
Specifically in the way of public safety in the city of Miami Beach and quality of life for residents, are there any specific ordinances that you would pass?
Well, I look at the traffic ordinances, the parking ordinances, the timing of traffic lights, the flow of traffic, pedestrians on the street. I represent victims of accidents in my practice, and there are very often cases where the city is negligent. There are even places on my island, I live on Normandy Isle, where the electric poles have wires coming out of them and people can trip on them. So that's a dangerous situation. But in any city, and that's not Mayor Levine's fault, the city is run by a city manager. The problem is that the city manager is in fear of losing his job because Mayor Levine is acting like a strong mayor, not a weak mayor. Now the difference for anyone who may or may not know is that a strong mayor is someone like Bill de Blasio in New York who runs the whole city, gets a big salary, and is paid for his time. Here, the mayor is really not compensated for his time fully, but he hasn't allowed the city manager to do his job because there's a climate of fear in City Hall. People are afraid to disagree with Mr. Levine. So that is not what I would do. That's not what I'm about, and that's not what I would do as mayor. I would allow the very good people in City Hall to do their jobs. And you know, I want to revisit one thing that Mr. Levine said.
Oh, Mr. Wieder. Mr. Levine, are there any specific ordinances?
May I finish?
We're going to have to keep moving on.
I just want to finish this one thought.
Very quickly, Mr. Wieder.
Mr. Levine says he's a volunteer also, and that he financed his own election. That reminds me of Donald Trump. Donald Trump finances his own election. Does that confer greater moral authority on him because he financed his own election?
Are there any specific ordinances that you would want to pass to increase the quality of life for residents?
Well, I think it's important that, since I've been the mayor for 2 years, maybe talk about some of the things that we have actually passed. Because, you know, it's an interesting thing, you know, when you have not been in office, it's, you know, everyone can talk about all the things you'd like to do. And, you know, Mr. Wieder, I listened to 6,000 people when I knocked on their doors, and I learned what they were looking for before I ran for mayor, and I came up with a plan. I called it the People's Plan, and the people told me what they'd like to see happen. I know you were quoted at the Breakfast Club the other day, and you said, quote, "I can't tell you now what I'm going to do if I'm elected." Well, that's a little uncomfortable and a little non-confident going into office. I understand you're a big fan of Mayor de Blasio in New York. Well, I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Mayor Bloomberg, so I guess we're a little bit different in how we operate. Let me also say this. We also have an incredible code enforcement office. Our director is Hernan Cordano. He's fantastic. He's amazing. We are coming up with new ideas constantly, as you've been seeing when you watch. Number one, we're increasing the fines for littering on our beaches dramatically. You all know, if you remember, sometimes when you're walking on Ocean Drive or Lincoln Road, you get hit by a Segway. We stopped the Segways, and now they're enforcing very aggressively. If you're in a Segway and you're in the areas that you're not allowed, you're going to get a major, major violation. We've stopped styrofoam on our beaches. Commissioner Grieco is very responsible for that and pushing that forward. So we don't have them in our beaches, in our marina, we don't have them at the boat shows. You know, when you talk about fear, and people in the city are fearful, you know, I kind of want to replace that word fear for another word, if you don't mind, and I'm going to use another word called accountability, okay? What we have brought in the last 2 years to the city of Miami Beach, and it's not just me, it's my fellow commissioners and our outstanding city manager, Jimmy Morales, is a level of accountability to make sure people are getting their jobs done and they're treating the residents like customers. Promises made, promises kept. New fire chief, new police chief, new head of code, new assistant directors a new director of our building department. We have changed people to make sure that our city is accountable to the residents that live here. You brought something else up. I just got to kind of just real quick say, we keep talking about an area of our city. Mr. Wieder, I'm going to give you a little lesson in topography, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Our city, on the western part of our city, is the lowest part of our city. The Sunset Harbor neighborhood is one of the lowest areas of Miami Beach that floods and has become completely uninhabitable. We've focused on that, we've raised the streets, we're doing the same thing on West Avenue, we've seen major progress, we're doing the same thing on Alton Road, 5th and Alton, and we have a $400 million plan to make our city resilient and sustainable. The most important thing we can do at this point is stay the course and get it done.
I'd like to respond.
We just want to get through as many topics as
I
possible.
know, but I'd like to respond to.
Mr. Weir, we're going to move on. So one of the really important issues are traffic and congestion. It seems that it's becoming increasingly hard to get anywhere from the top North Beach to South Beach. If you were elected mayor, how would you make sure that we can decrease congestion in the city?
Well, let's be honest about the traffic condition in Miami Beach. We are a small island. We have major arteries going north and south. We have Alton Road, we have LaGorce Drive, we have Collins Avenue. LaGorce Drive is populated by speed bumps because the residents don't want people to travel down there too quickly. There are a number of things that we can do to improve transportation in Miami Beach. They don't include a subway. They may include Bailey with a loop in Lower South Beach, but I don't think anybody on North Beach wants to have a monorail or a light rail system traveling up Alton Road beyond Lincoln Road or beyond Bay Boulevard. So that's one thing that we have a problem with. What we could do is have an increased signalization, synchronization, and I believe the administration is working on that now. We could have a continuation and perhaps an expansion of the trolley system. We need better buses and in coordination with the county. For example, if you miss a bus in New York, another one's along in 3 minutes. If you miss a bus here, you're sitting in the heat for 40 minutes before the next bus arrives. And some cities have kiosks where in Paris, for example, they have kiosks where they show you when the next bus is going to arrive. We need to work very hard with the county to try and improve the bus system, and we need to use clean, nimble, above-ground transportation. We can't, as you all know, have subway. But it's a complicated problem. There have been numerous studies, and nobody's really come up with an answer yet.
Mr. Levine, I have a question in the audience from Mattel who asks, how will a convention center hotel impact traffic and tourism in the city?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer that, Benjamin. It's going to dovetail into something else. I agree with Mr. Wieder. You definitely don't want a subway in Miami Beach because it would turn into a submarine, okay? So I totally agree with you there. Let me tell you what we've done. First thing we did when I came into office in 52 days, we put together a South Beach trolley that's free for the people that live in South Beach. The second thing we did is we put a North Beach trolley in, so a lot of our seniors in North Beach could ride free on the trolley and not necessarily have to use the county bus system. Our Mid-Beach trolley is about to get operational. We're also going to have a connector, so you'll be able to either go on the county buses or you'll be able to go free on Miami Beach's trolley system. Another thing that we did, and also I want to say this, folks, the traffic we have here, a lot of it you see on Alton Road and West Avenue, it's because of not commercial construction, it's because of the road construction we're doing to make our streets dry. We have a choice. We can either live in Atlantis, or we can live in Miami Beach and make it dry. And we've taken a hard choice to invest in our city when the previous administration has ignored the infrastructure and done nothing. we're getting it done. We got Alton Road open 7 months ahead of schedule. We have water taxis right now. We've already finalized the contract. The company has been selected. We're building the docks, and we're going to be using water taxis from Miami to Miami Beach. We put out these loading zones. We have a loading zone ordinance. I can't stand, as a lot of you know, when some of these big trucks are double parking, it causes everybody havoc. We passed an ordinance to stop that. We stopped an ordinance for blocking the box. But I do believe in the future, one of the most important things we do need to do is we need what Miami Beach had 70 and 75 years ago, a dedicated streetcar without cables, that's green, that's high-tech, that goes from 5th and Alton, goes up Washington, goes to our renovated convention center, and then goes back. People can park in garages, use a streetcar, because we want less cars in Miami Beach. Regarding light synchronization, it's been a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand it. But remember something, the county controls the light system. We can't take it over. But let me tell you what we did do with a very creative idea. A Miami Beach employee now is working in the county in charge of all our lights. So our employee is now in the county overseeing the synchronization of our lights. Your question, Benjamin, I'm sorry to go on my way about it, is regarding a hotel. One of the things we did is we killed a terrible, bad, corrupt process convention center that was too big for our city and made no sense. We decoupled it. The renovation of the convention center is beginning this year. It's at no cost to taxpayers, and we're going to have an amazing renovated center there with a 6-acre park in front of it. The hotel is totally separate. The people of Miami Beach need to decide whether they want a convention center or hotel. It's not for me to decide, it's not for any of the commissioners to decide, it's for the people of Miami Beach. And I believe the company that was selected is putting it on the ballot in March. I actually believe a convention center hotel attached to the convention center will reduce traffic because people that stay there are flying in, they're staying at the hotel, they're walking to Lincoln Road, and they're walking right into the convention center. They're there for a reason. So I do believe it could potentially be a positive thing, but that's not my decision. Thank you.
The proposal for a convention center hotel is that we need 800 rooms so we can attract high-end conventions. And I don't disagree with the mayor on that point. What I do believe is that the convention center hotel has to be attached to the convention center. Because conventioners do want to walk down from the convention to the convention itself. They don't want to have to take taxis or Ubers or whatever from the other hotels. But the only problem I really have with it is that it's proposed to be 30 stories high, which is out of context with the neighborhood. It seems to me the design could be refined to include space over the convention center itself. Now, it's my understanding that the Fontainebleau and a number of other benefactors have contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to the PACs to defeat the convention center hotel. And Mayor Levine has put that on the ballot, possibly as a result of that, financial donation by hotels that want to maintain their preeminent status in terms of getting the hotel rooms. So, yes, convention center hotel, no 30 stories, refined design, attached to the convention center, but that's it. It has to be restudied, and it has to be made lower.
Mr. Levine, I have another question from the audience. From David. The environment is an important aspect of the city of Miami Beach. And it seems that a lot of times we see a lot of debris coming from the city. If you were elected mayor, how would you decrease the amount of pollution coming from our city into sewage streams and different stormwater drains into the water?
Thank you, Benjamin. It's a great question. And I've answered this online over and over and over again. It's important for Miami Beach to be the most resilient, most sustainable city in America. I use Santa Monica as a model. There seems to be a little bit of a misunderstanding, and we try to get it out there as much as possible. For 100 years, the drainage system in Miami Beach worked this way. The rain came down onto the street, it went into the drain, and it came out on our seawalls back into the bay. gravity system completely unfiltered. What we did, of course, because of sea level rise, is we put pumps in. The pumps now push the water out, give the water headway, but before it goes out into the bay, for the first time in 100 years, the water is being filtered. The water is going through a vortex. If you could see the amount of trash and garbage that are in these vortexes that we're cleaning out weekly in Miami Beach, normally that would have been going out in the bay. Now, when you see the water in the bay and you look at it and you can see, we've had reports of people saying, we're putting oil, it's going oil. Well, you know, we don't sit on oil wells in Miami Beach, I'm sorry to say. We have a water table under us, an aquifer, we have saltwater intrusion. What that is specifically, and we've tested it over and over again, is called turbidity. Turbidity is when water rushes into another pool of water, you see bubbles, and it's been tested and tested and tested. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we are always filtering, cleaning the water before it goes out into the bay. And the other things, of course, we've done, Benjamin, is everything from the litter to styrofoam bans, and we're working on a plastic bag ban right now, but unfortunately the state of Florida preempts the municipality where we're not allowed to pass something like that. So just to sum it up, we're in a situation where we need to make our city resilient. We can't allow a lack of confidence. The previous administration did nothing but analysis paralysis, and as you know, we've gotten international media for being a city that's leading the world in sea level rise, fighting back. Thank you.
Mr. Wieder, how do we increase government accountability for our environment in the city of Miami?
I think it would be a good idea to appoint an ombudsman to overlook the accountability issues in City Hall. Someone who is independent. For example, we had an issue in front of the Historic Preservation Board about the church, which Mr. Levine referred to. And Mr. Levine reversed the finding of a judge and called the judge ridiculous. I've never heard a judge being called ridiculous by a mayor before. So he reversed the judge's decision. That isn't right. The information on the church that we got as a board was filtered, and I voted to rehear it, along with two other board members. Joe Manning is here. And by the way, she's sitting 2 rows ahead of my lovely wife, Catherine, who's here. Say hi. We have a situation where we have to have someone who, at this point, I'm sorry to say, looks out for the citizens of Miami Beach. Mayor Levine comes in here with all the things that he's done, many of which he takes credit for, which started in the previous administration. And Mayor Levine has smeared the previous commissions for being corrupt. But if all of you have read the Miami Herald lately, you will see that there is something going on in City Hall that is improper. And you know what the real issue about overdevelopment? The real issue about overdevelopment is too many people in too small an area. And that won't be solved by putting up more towers along the ocean and blocking the view and moving out the middle class from Miami Beach, where only hedge fund managers and very wealthy people can afford to live.
Benjamin, real quick, I think Mr. Wieder brought up a very good point. I think as far as maintaining the middle class, that's something that we've been really desperately trying to do. I actually just want to let people know that we're building our first workforce housing area, which is the old London House, is going to be completely workforce housing for people that work on Miami Beach, which is very important. But the one thing I'd like to say real quick, you know, Mr. Wieder, I've listened to you so far, and you know, the game of personal attacks, of gutter politics. You know, I'm not so sure that people of Miami Beach are really that interested in that. I think what they'd like to hear is about why someone should be mayor, what you would do if you were mayor, how would you get things done. I think the sound that you're hearing in City Hall is the sound of a city government that's performing very well, that's moving forward, that's getting things done. But I got to tell you, I think one of the reasons people tune out of politics, they turn off politics, is all they hear is personal attacks and gutter politics. And I just think that's something I'd like to just say, because I think it's important, once again, that we just focus on how do we make Miami Beach a better place. I wake up every day and that's what I do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do if I'm re-elected mayor of Miami Beach. Thank you.
Those of us who live in black houses shouldn't throw stones. And I want to tell you, you can fool all of the people some of the time, and some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
So you have 2 minutes to say why you should be elected mayor.
I need less than 2 minutes to do that, okay? I want to restore integrity. I want to restore trust in our city government. I want to create an environment at City Hall where city employees can do their job without fear of retribution. I want to be a mayor for all the people, not the special interests. I have never seen in my entire life in Miami Beach a mayor generate so much anger and so much antipathy among so many people in so short a period of time. Sometimes they take a little longer. Some of them wound up in jail, some of them didn't. I don't think that Mayor Levine should wind up in jail, but I think that the ethical issues that have occurred during his administration are most disconcerting. Now, I'm a lawyer. I'm proud to be a lawyer. I've represented little people all my life, and I want to devote my next 2 years to serving the people of Miami Beach, not the special interests, not the developers, not the contractors, and not the people who pay money to Relentless for Progress or Relentless for Profit, whatever you want to call it. So I want to empower the people we have at City Hall to do their jobs. And let the chips fall where they may, because under my leadership, there will be guidance from the top, not authoritarian decisions.
First of all, Benjamin, again, thank you very much, and you're a great moderator. This has been a wonderful, wonderful session. I'd be honored to be re-elected mayor of Miami Beach. I love what I've been doing. Every day I get up, I love coming to City Hall, I love getting things done for the people of Miami Beach. This is one of the greatest cities in America, but we're facing some significant challenges. We've overcome a lot, but we have a lot of things we've got to get done. We've got to continue and stay the course. Sea level rise, we're 10% there. We've got 90% to go. Our convention center, we must make sure we get this reconstructed properly, that we attract the right conventions to Miami Beach. North Beach is experiencing a renaissance with all the things that we have done and things that we're going to continue to do, including the master plan, which will also protect the historic district there. Our police department is now moving forward in a positive direction with a great culture. City Hall is a city hall that's very customer service driven. The morale is fabulous. I'm going to tell you a little story because I like to talk about a little issue that Mr. Vida brought up regarding fear. When I was first elected mayor of Miami Beach, our city manager, Jimmy Morales, who is an incredible guy, Harvard undergrad, Harvard Law, he was a very special, amazing city manager. He said to me, Mayor, he said, I'd like you to come to the holiday party. You know, we have 2,000 employees. I want them to meet you. And I said, I'd love to come. And I went, and there was probably 150 people there. And I said, Jimmy, where is everybody? And he said, he goes, wow, they charge $20 a person to come to the holiday party. He'd only been city manager 5 months before I was elected. I said, Jimmy, we can't do that. That's a culture killer. That's not how we want the people of Miami Beach who work here to feel. Don't charge them. I said, let's do this. Let's throw a lunch right away at the convention center or Jackie Gleason Theater. Invite everybody who works for our city for lunch because I'd like to talk to them. So we are paying for it. It's on our nickel. So we make the announcement, they all come out, and we have maybe, 600, 700, 800 staff coming. Now you can imagine they have no idea why they're coming. I'm the new mayor, and they're thinking this guy could be Gordon Gekko, who knows? They don't know what's gonna happen. And I talked to them, and I said, I wanted to meet all of you because I want this city to be a city that starts at yes, not a city that starts at no. I want you to have fun. I want you to think of the people that live here, not as residents, but as customers. The only problem you're ever going to have with me as mayor is if you don't get things done. If you can't get things done, then we're going to have a problem. But besides that, I want everyone to have fun. Let's move forward. And I said to them, I said, by the way, we happen to have somebody here who's a customer, who lives in Miami Beach. I want to introduce you. He knows all about teamwork. And then Pat Riley came out on the stage and talked to all of them. Since that time, we've done multiple lunches like that. We had Gloria Emilio Stefan come out and say hello to everybody. We had Pitbull, and we have another great one coming up. So I ask for your vote. I'm honored to be reelected, and this is the greatest city. And I thank you all for coming out here in the middle of the